Welcome to CapCut's the Instructional Flourishing Videotape. I'm your instructor, Cap Casino, and in the next few minutes, we're going to teach you guys some really cool maneuvers with playing cards, which you can utilize to spice up the card tricks you're already doing. So grab some cards, stretch out your fingers, and be prepared to have a lot of fun. Just like there's 4 suits in every deck of cards, there's 4 critical factors in doing fancy card cuts: speed, smoothness, transitional ability, and the close. When you first begin learning card cuts, I recommend going through them rather slowly at first and focusing on smoothness so that you can get the actions right, understanding where all the grips are. Then, once you have that down, and you can do that in your sleep, go for speed. In most cases, these cuts look best when done quite quickly. There is an exception to that rule. For example, if you're displaying a cut and you've paused it, you don't really want to move it around too fast, generally, because you want the audience to absorb the cut. Let me give you a few bits of advice, examples, so to say, on what I was talking about as far as transitioning the cuts. For example, many of the cuts begin with this position, where you have half the packet in each hand. You could do what I just did. Cut it, place it. It's not all that efficient. It's not all that effective in my opinion. Here's a simple example of what you might do to get into that position. Notice I'm in perfect position to do the hex cut, which we teach on this tape. Okay? I'm not going to teach it now, but you get the idea. Also, when you're transitioning cuts, let me give you an example of that. Bad Habit is a popular cut, invented by Brian Tudor on his videotape Show Off Volume 1. There are more deluxe versions of this cut, but it's a solid cut. And I use it a lot. But let's say you want to do BRS, which we teach later on the videotape. What if you want to transition the cuts instead of just doing one then doing another? Well, if you think about it, and this is just an example, there's many ways to transition them. If you were to stop it here and lift up, look, you're in perfect Z position almost to go into BRS. Okay? So that's an example of what you might do to transition cuts. You've got an example of the opening, the middle. Now here's an example of the end. Let's say you're doing the bridge cut, for example. And once you're here, in this position, you want to close it, right? Now there's many ways of closing, but look, you're in perfect position to do Paul Harris's butterfly cut. That's a good spot to toss that in. It's an effective close to the cut, putting the cards in perfectly squared condition. So those are some examples of transitioning the cuts. I hope you experiment with those ideas and invent your own. Here's one of the most important grips utilized in Sybil dynamic technique. It's called the Z grip, and it's the way most cuts generally begin. What you want to do to get into Z grip is with your right hand, come over and break a quarter of the deck off. Before you do that, or as you do it, extend your left hand forefinger just a little bit so it's not in the way. Generally, you want your right hand middle finger to contact the right side of the top packet. This way, a move that comes up in just a moment will be easier to do. Because if your right hand middle finger is too far to the left of the packet, the next move, well, the move where your right hand forefinger breaks that packet in half, may be more challenging because you might not have space to do it easily and quickly and smoothly, which is really important. Well, nonetheless, break off a quarter of the packet in this action. You're not really pivoting it anywhere. All it's really doing is breaking it off, but you want to break it off so that you make a V. Okay? From this side, it looks sort of like a V. The next action, and by the way, these actions all happen pretty much simultaneously, is for your right hand thumb to break off another quarter utilizing your left hand forefinger as the pivoting point. This gives you a Z looking position from the side, like a letter Z. Okay? That's the first packet, that's the second packet. Note that the second packet is not pivoted too far down or too far on the end. That may make it more challenging when you're doing all the pivoting action of the cut later on. Generally, the best spot is right in the middle of the tip, right about where my right hand forefinger is pointing. You can experiment a little bit yourself though. It may be different depending on the size of your hands or whether you're utilizing poker cards or bridge cards. Because as you know, bridge cards are smaller than poker cards. So these are the variables which could make a difference. But that's the first packet, that's the second packet. For the last action of the Z grip, it doesn't look much like a Z anymore, but still generally these all begin Sybil dynamic technique, is to break off the top packet in half, utilizing your right hand forefinger just like that. Okay? There we go. Once more, it contacts and pulls up. It's somewhat pivoting off the right hand thumb at the bottom right here, just like that. So all those actions happen in one smooth action just like that, and then you can go into the rotating for your Sybil trick or cut. Here's a detailed look at one of the moves utilized in many of the cuts. It's called the one card pop. Okay? And the move looks like this. Okay? It can be done fast when you pick it up. All it is pivoting out one of the cards. Okay? Like that. That's the action. It's best to utilize this move when you have about half the deck or a quarter of the deck. If you only have a few cards, generally there's not as much flexibility to do it well in most circumstances. It can be done easily here because, well, there's no other packets being held by the rest of the fingers. But this move is utilized with, many other packets in the fingers in the context of certain cuts. Also with the whole deck, I find it's not best either because you can't really bend the deck much. Because the reason this works quickly and easily is due to the bend of the deck as well as the get ready. Okay? So let's take a peek at the get ready. Okay? And it all happens in one hand, by the way. Basically, with your right hand forefinger, pull up the card on the face of the packet about ½ an inch. Okay? Now, if the right hand middle finger is on the far side of the packet, there's not much friction, so it is possible to pivot it without the get ready. Notice how it gets pivoted around this finger here. Okay? That's the pivot point. Just like that. Okay? The get ready though is really handy because oftentimes this finger will not be on this edge. It'll be like in the middle, which makes that a lot harder. In fact, it's really hard to do, especially in the context of, say, a cut like the cap cut, because you're going to have so many other packets in your fingers. Okay? So pull up about ½ an inch, bend, and push with the right hand forefinger, just like that. Okay? And it gets sort of held in this grip. Okay? Just like that. So once more. And once more slowly. Okay? That is the one card pop out.